I am focusing on combining, I'll go back to that one. Traditional textiles techniques to upcycle, promote slow fashion and focus on individual well-being. Mainly focused on students at the moment and really using the textile technique shibori. So a little bit of background information on me. I'm a fashion designer. I have done in years in industry for the last 10 years, and then progressed into lecturing in fashion design on the BA program, so undergraduate. And I do also guest lecture on the MA. Currently also studying my own MA part-time in education, which is quite interesting, linking how creatives really develop their practice. I'm part of a Fashion in Futures group at BCU, where we really focus on developing sustainable practice within fashion. So it's really embedded to kind of nurture and develop the next generation of students. I also lead a buddy program within fashion and textiles, which integrates international students with home students and brings together those two cultures within fashion. My research mainly focuses on cultural fashion and sustainable fashion at the minute. And personally, I just love experimenting with textiles and combining students from a variety of backgrounds to really create something quite new and have a bit of fun whilst we're doing it. This workshop up the top is a shibori one that we brought into the university as well, which was really well received. So the aim of this research really is to kind of analyse if there is a potential link between upcycling textiles and well-being. For me personally, I started doing shibori when we was in COVID-19, just as something to have a bit of fun and get away from the laptop. It's a real hands-on method of creating a new textile. And for me personally, it was quite good because you disconnected from social media, the laptop screens, etc., and just play around with your hands, having a little bit of fun, creating something new, experimental, and it's quite relaxing as I did create it. The objective of how I will actually do this is to hold informal workshops to really help students chill out, relax, and focus on using their hands to create something beautiful out of something old. So as a fashion lecturer, we will be primarily focusing on garments or at least interior design, so you can really see the progress and transition of that fabric from maybe plain, quite simplistic, to a pattern that's quite surprising within the outcome. Also, shibori uses indigo dye, which is quite a natural resource. So it is a plant that's then harvested and crushed and combined to create the actual dye. So shibori, in case anybody doesn't know, is a Japanese term. It basically means squeezing or pressurizing something. It really is just kind of a stitch resist dye technique, which I think is a little bit hard sometimes to get your head around. So you do the stitching first, and wherever you stitch will remain the main fabric colour. So as you can see on the examples on the top left, that one's in the process of just been stitched. The one to the right is it's been in the dye, and once the stitching's unpicked, there's the bottom two where it creates the pattern. So the white fabric has remained, but only in the pattern that you've stitched it. It really focuses on the beautiful but vanishing traditional handicrafts of a Chinese minorities ethnicities. So it's called the Bay community, and in China they specifically focus on shibori and really kind of preserving this. It's an intercultural sharing. It's really constant and often unconscious throughout our daily lives. Handcrafts are the physical embodiment of culture and culture sharing. So I think a lot of different cultures have probably took on bits of shibori and adapted it a little bit. I mean, a lot of people just think it's tie-dye, but there's a little bit more skill to it than just simple tie-dye as such. And I think shibori really provides the chance to understand both commonalities and differences in culture and to understand our shared history. So this could really be taken as a dying art if we don't preserve it. And I think it's quite nice because it tells a story throughout time as well, how you've created something. Shibori for me is a real fun activity personally. I like that you can't always predict the outcome. So even though you stitch it, it depends on the actual strength of how you've preserved that stitch, that if it comes out perfectly clear or sometimes it's blended, etc. So it is a little bit of an unpredictable outcome at times. So the base stitch resist dye technique, the Chinese community do call it zaran and shibori for the Japanese. It's a traditional craft, really. The Bai ethnic minority group in Yunnan, southern China, use it. And they literally have took over the village with this. It's really amazing. And quite a few of my students have actually gone there on holiday, which is quite cool because they talk about it and bring up their photos. This craft's existed for over 1,000 years and is still actively practiced today. It's a real slow technique that can be enjoyed with relaxing music, and the outcome is partly controlled. However, I believe part of the fun is seeing the surprise at the end. It's all about how much time you put into it, really. You can create some really lovely, simple designs, and it doesn't take as long, or you can go really elaborate, and it can create quite a lot of work and quite textiles, but again, it can be quite relaxing at the same time. I think shibori personally really links well to the SDGs, so the Sustainable Development Goals. It embraces craft, culture, and slow living from a variety of cultures and ethnic minorities, focusing on local skills, preserving heritage as well, and really progressing at a slow rate. I think a lot of our students, particularly in fashion, are aware now of fast fashion and the negative outcomes from it. So they're really willing to like participate and learn these new skills new skills, existing traditional skills, and kind of reinvent them into their work. Shibori, it gives the artist time to chill, relax, stitch to some music, chat. It's quite a communal kind of social thing. You can do it by yourself, but I really do think it's quite fun. Everybody doing it together and participating and seeing each other's outcome. It really focuses on producing textile pieces with love and care, promoting responsible consumption, specifically linking to the process of natural indigo. So I've identified 3 sustainable development goals: sustainable cities and communities, because it does link in really well to, that historical element as well. Good health and well-being, because for the person practicing it, it really can just calm them down, rather than sometimes it can be quite intense and anxious when students are working online, etc. And also responsible consumption and production. So using shibori to upcycle existing garments that really are a bit neglected or not worn or not wanted anymore, and giving them some new revitalized life as such. So the theory behind it, so the students are tasked with the magic of indigo dye, get messy, learn, create something traditional using shibori. I really do think that international students struggle to integrate with home students initially. And as a tutor, it really can be quite intense with so many different needs from the variety of students. So within higher education, quality is enhanced through internationalism and creating an inclusive society, which really has a positive cultural impact. So bringing in a traditional Japanese, Chinese technique really can help students to just open up that conversation as well and integrate further. Brookfield also uses his model of reflection, and it suggests that really critically reflective lecturers will frequently attempt to see things through the students' eyes to understand and support them. For me, when I've actually practiced shibori, I've done it independently and as a group. And I think as a group, it's quite good because you can share ideas, help each other. It's quite intricate, threading the needle in the specific technique. So it's all about socialization and bringing together people together through shared practice. Also, educating on a creative course rather than a theoretical subject really reflects Dewey as a practitioner, his learn by doing theory. Really, it's all about a two-way transaction. So I use this to kind of create a learning experience connecting both the tutor and the student. Connectivism is practiced through continual reflection relevant to current activities within the industry, which is why the SDGs are coming into it, and negative feelings towards fast fashion. So really within our curriculum, we have embedded all of the SDGs against the modules, so the students can really thrive and practice it as something that's just natural rather than forced, as industry has got so many new roles coming up with sustainability as part of that essential requirement. Also linking in with well-being within the arts, so to bring like a togetherness and community within that, so students don't feel alone as such. So it's quite an inclusive technique to really bring the class together as a community. The methodology really would be under two different types, both qualitative. So an observation where I will really focus on the workshop, the setting, and I'll participate with them. I'll collect and observe what the participants have bought to upcycle, so what garments as such, how people are getting on, what words they're using to describe the process and their feelings, and record it really in field notes and photos. This will really be done to identify if there is any trends between slow fashion, textiles techniques, and well-being, so assessing how they feel from before to after. And also I'll send out students ethics consent forms, so participants know that once they've signed up, they're part of it. Within the focus group, this is really afterwards the workshop to collect the participants' voices. So selecting a small selection of participants to chat informally and highlight keywords, questions that they're really bringing up when reflecting upon the event that they've took part in. This will allow me to hear from students' perspective, listening to their conversation, and also ones that are quite quiet within the group. So really bringing those out of their shell and give them a chance to have a voice. And again, ethics will be considered through participants being aware when they're actually taking part of the workshop. The plan for the workshop. So I have practiced this a couple of times and it's worked quite well. So I have got the plan in places to really focus on. So organising it, advertising it, holding the actual workshop. It's really kind of 20 to 30 people maximum really, and it gets a good amount of interest, conversation, and shared techniques going. Have a couple of demo videos. So I have got two methods of doing it. One's the traditional way with the sewing, and the other one is for quicker learners who might like lose a bit of interest or motivation as such. So this way is quite a quick way of doing it with folding and different textiles to really create a different pattern, and you can kind of compare the outcome of the two. Also linking it to catwalks and interior to show people how this is used to create a final outcome and what they could even do with this skill afterwards. Demonstrate the traditional technique of threading the needle, because it is very different to what we teach in the UK, and it does take a little while to get your head around, but as soon as people learn it, the students they're literally like, yeah, I'm using this now, it's really good, quite efficient. Start the sewing, have the music playing on in the background, relaxing, conversation going, and start just comparing ideas and really start to create our pieces. Once they are done, start the dyeing. It really takes just like a couple of minutes, to be honest. And then unpick it whilst it's wet, and then have a celebratory reveal. So all of this happens within the same workshop. So there's no need to wait for it to dry, etc. It's literally can be done straight away and you get to see the outcome, which is quite exciting. Within this, there is the presentation to actually go through it all with the students so everybody knows what to do. They've got ideas as well, etc. So it really does go and cover everything for them. And really it just has been proven to build a learning community. So I've hosted this workshop, I think 4 times. The first time we did it, it was a really good success. And I've been asked by other people to do it again. So the first time it was open to 30 people across the faculty. We had staff, students across a variety of courses come and join. It was quite a cool a day. It was a real social activity day, to be honest. And then again, I've created it with international students in the summer and some home students, part of the buddy program, to really help them learn new skills and just have a bit of social engagement in the summer when they are here. Also, Ukrainian students, so they couldn't go home and really it was just something to kind of give them an outlet, a social, and learn a new skill, whilst obviously they're going through quite a lot with war, etc. And again, it's been practiced and invited onto other courses, which is quite interesting to see how different students respond to it. Overall, it has been really well received, with a lot of students saying it's really calmed them down. So the outcome really is to eventually get a journal article published on this topic, have a chapter in the book, and an exhibition of the final outcomes. I will also say it's practice, it's taking part that really is the fun rather than just the outcome. One student in particular really struggled to get the tension right. It's not that challenging, to be honest, but everybody has their challenges themselves personally. And it took him 4 times, and in the end he got it, and they were so happy. It was really good to see the process from beginning to end. And once you learn the initial techniques, which everybody has here, then literally you can try anything. But I do think part of the fun is the process. So ideas to really develop the workshop focus on creating 2 workshops, potentially in March and April, and reviewing the outcomes. Potentially having it blended in person, depending on costs and time. And if we do any more, potentially move it to online, so a wider variety of people could join in. As I am based in Birmingham, it's a little bit tricky for anybody who is further abroad. And maybe just do an Eventbrite ticket system, because people are quite used to this. It's also quite easy to see the starting point and the outcome, which I think for creatives is really quite key to actually seeing that process, the whole thing. And it's quite interesting from a research point of view to document that process. This shirt really didn't get worn before. Now this one really has been worn quite a lot and embedded within the wardrobe. A couple of restrictions potentially is availability of rooms, policies even, availability of staff and participants' times, costs, health and safety considerations. So it does need a bit of ventilation. It is a dye, however, it's not dangerous as such. And really focusing on inclusivity. So maybe online makes it a little bit more available to all, as it's very little cost as opposed to traveling to Birmingham as such. Couple of references that I have referred to throughout the presentation. But I think it's just quite key to see how, starting from a plain fabric to a beautiful outcome, this is the quicker technique to use to create this outcome, how happy students and participants are, which is quite exciting personally. And if there's any questions at all.